This is the Fit Femmes movement. Have you felt overwhelmed with your fitness journey and feel like you just want to give up? Are you a busy female professional or entrepreneur looking for weight loss and self-care solutions that you can squeeze into your hectic schedule? Then you're in the right place. Let's get inspired to make fitness and healthy living improve rather than consume your life. Together, we'll take major strides towards a happier, healthier, even wealthier you. I'm Julia Hickman, your host and coach.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Fit Femmes movement. And for those of you watching on Facebook, welcome back to another live series. So today I have the lovely Macarena Real de Azua, and I'm pronouncing it the Spanish way, but I'm sure some of you guys will say Macarena. And I met Macarena in a business coaching group and connected with her right away because she actually is from Uruguay, which is right by Paraguay, where I was born, where a lot of my family is from. So I connected with Macarena right away. So to tell you guys a little more about her, she is founder and director of Real Coaching. She's earned her bachelor's degree in business administration while working full-time and raising 2 kids by herself in New York City. And Macarena's 20 years of experience in logistics at the United Nations. She's also worked at the New York headquarters and was deployed to the Democratic Republic of Congo. And she is a certified life coach. She's done Jack Canfield's program, Train the Trainer from the Train the Trainer Institute. And along with her studies of spirituality, a combination of being passionate and empathetic, yet she has that tough love and no nonsense approach to coaching. In her free time, she loves spending weekends with her teenage kids and training for long distance triathlons. Another thing that have had us connect, because as you guys know, I love my marathons. So I just wanted to give you guys a little intro to Macarena, but I'm going to let her tell us a little bit more about how she got started. So tell us a little bit more about how you got started with your work, and then we're going to dive into some of the things that we wanted to cover today.
Great. Hi, everyone. So yes, we connected over so many things we have in common, right? You haven't told me what you're training for next, but okay, that's a different conversation. Yeah. So yes, I started coaching because I, about 8 years ago, my ex-husband decided to move overseas and left me with this giant job of raising my children by myself. So that wasn't fun at the beginning. So the first 3 years were really a struggle for me to accept that was my new reality. And at one point, I truly realized almost overnight that I had to make changes in my own life if I wanted to be the kind of mom that my kids deserve, the kind of mom that I thought I was capable of being, the type of person who was present in her life and not like trying to avoid every soccer game on the weekends. So that's when I started this like very deep and personal self improvement work. And that led me to, many studies and things. And then I realized that there were probably so many women out there who felt maybe not at that end of the spectrum, but felt overwhelmed in different areas of their life. So that's when I decided to actually take the coaching seriously and get certified and said, okay, so this is what I want to do. I want to serve in a way where I can help moms feel that, yes, they can have it all and love every aspect of their lives. So that's a little bit how I got started in this.
Wow, that must have been really difficult, being all of a sudden by yourself with your kids and trying to figure it all out. And as moms, we try to juggle it all, but then usually, a lot of the times we have we have somebody to kind of help us take some of that load away. So being a single mom, and my mom was a single mom, and now it's like I can see so much of all the struggles and all the hard work that she had to go through. So I commend you for that, because it's not easy being a mom, but I've seen personally how it's definitely not easy being a mom by yourself. So but I wanted to talk about, really wanted to like get your expertise and your perspective on, the relationships with our kids, right? And how the pandemic, the whole COVID pandemic has impacted our relationship with our children. So for me, for example, personally, my son, he right before the pandemic, he had started his first year in pre-K, and he was very excited, everything was going great. Then all of a sudden, okay, we're staying home for a few weeks, right? That's what we were all told. And then all of a sudden that turned into, we don't know when this is going to end. And it really, it changed. It kind of forced us to watch our reactions, because I feel like kids at that point, like it was so new to everybody, like nobody expected this, this virus to come and do what it did or what it's doing. But I feel like our kids were watching us, right? Like they were looking to us to be like, oh, okay, how do I react? Like, am I supposed to be scared? Am I supposed to be sad? So that was probably the biggest lesson that it taught us right away. Like, be careful what you say, and be careful, how you react, especially, on the topic of the pandemic. And yeah, it definitely brought us closer together. But I would love to know, you from the work that you do, and, you deal with a lot of parents, a lot of moms. How do you think the relationships were before the pandemic? And then how do you think they've changed now that we are in this, like, I guess, I don't know if I'm ready to call it a transition period, but I feel like we're kind of getting back to like some kind of normal now. But what do you think?
Well, the first thing I think is like fundamental is what you said about how we react, right, to any situation in life. And that's something that is one of the principles of the methodology that I teach, which is take responsibility for your life. 100% of your life is really on you, which means we actually use a formula, which is E plus R equals O, which is stands for the event plus your response equals the outcome. So no matter what the event is, we can respond in so many different ways, right? And that will determine the outcome in terms of how you feel about it and how everything else is going to work out. For example, with this pandemic, exactly what you said. So the event was the pandemic, and the response, we can look at it, I don't know, we have 7 billion people on the planet. Each one of us had a different reaction, right? Perhaps at the beginning, it was more of like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And then we evolved to accepting it or not. And that determined actually how we lived through it. Did we live through it in a way that was a way saying this is an opportunity? Like I saw it as an opportunity and I got certified. It was March 10th when I got home and I was like, I need to get my official certificate. So that's what I did. I used the extra time that I didn't have to commute to run longer hours, different things. But a lot of people struggled with that particular response, right? So the other aspect of that same question is relationships with others, really, including our children, are a mirror of the relationship we have with ourselves. So if you're in constant conflict and disapproval of yourself, then you're going to be in conflict and disapproval of others. So how's your relationship with yourself before the pandemic? And then that's going to give you the answer of how it was with your kids before the pandemic, right?
Yeah, that's so true. And I feel like being a parent
Mhm.
and being a business owner, they're both these major self-development journeys, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like both things kind of force you to look at the things that trigger you, look at the things that um, to look at your beliefs, like your old beliefs, to look at the way that you were raised,
Yes.
to look at all, the good stuff and the not so good stuff. And it really reflects back, like all those things reflect back right back to us, like on our kids.
Yeah.
Like our kids are our mirror, and like our business can also be our mirror.
Yeah.
And it's just, I definitely don't get it all right, but it's just something now that I have that awareness as a parent and as somebody in the online world. Like, yes, everything, like all the good stuff and all the ugly stuff is going to be reflected right back at me.
And I
So
mean, and now that your son is a little older, you can, I'm sure you've seen this, that the things that you say come back to you immediately, right? So, but we need that awareness, like you said, to see it, because a lot of times parents are so busy that they don't see that your kid is you,
yeah.
which is a little scary. And also talking about awareness, which is actually the base of everything, right? Is okay, so what kind of parent do I want to be? And what are the things that I didn't like about, or forget about like, I didn't agree with as I was growing up, the way I was raised, but I'm still continuing in the same pattern,
Yeah.
because it's just like in our subconscious, and is really, you have to have a level of self-awareness elevated to be able to see that you don't want that, and that you be able to change those patterns. Do you find yourself sometimes with those issues? For example, I was a yeller. I used to yell all the time at my kids, until one day I was like, I don't want to yell anymore.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so true. I definitely am a yeller when I'm triggered. Yes. And it's so true. It's definitely it's not something that I want to do. It's something that I want to do less of. But yeah, you're so right. It's something that, and thinking back, like I don't think I was yelled at that much, but yes, I definitely was yelled at, and even when I was a kid, I mean, I got spanked sometimes and I was like very naughty. And again, like even now as a parent, like I would never hurt my kid, and I haven't hurt my kid, but there's been a couple times when I've given him a little tap, just to get his attention. Then I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to repeat those things
Yeah.
that, I grew up with. So yeah.
It's
So
so
true.
important to actually reflect and think, okay, this is what I'm doing. I need to see why I'm doing it. And then, first of all, to me, the first thing is always to apologize, because that shows like the humanity in moms, and that
Yeah.
and just say, I am not perfect. I am learning how to do this. Even when the kids are really young, when they're like 4, 5, 6, because they look at you like, why are you being mean? Right?
Right,
Like they're
exactly.
like, wait, I'm the person who I love the most in the world. And it's like, wait, you are all I have as a kid
Yeah.
to your parents, right? And then for us to not be able to control our emotions, not be able to stop and think about why we are doing certain things, then I think that's our responsibility.
Yes, that is so, so true. And how would you say, like, what would you recommend to somebody to work on? Let's go back. I don't know if you were done talking about like the relationships between, parents and children
Mhm.
during COVID. But if you want to talk a little bit more about, how you saw those relationships were before, and then how you feel like they've changed now that we are entering that transition period.
So the way I've seen it, I've talked to a lot of moms, and dads, but a lot of moms who actually struggled during this period to say, okay, now my kids are home all day and I want them to go to school, right? I mean, I had that issue that I'm thinking, I want to work from home, but I want them to go to school. So and I want them to stop eating all my food, right? So what's happened, I think, in the past year and a half is, first of all, no one has lived through this before, right? And I also think what I've seen is like people who were happy with themselves and happy with their lives the way they were, then saw this as, I mean, obviously people have suffered and a lot of people have died and people had to deal with grief and that aspect. But if people were happy before and fulfilled with their lives, they saw this as something positive where they could actually enhance their lives. And people who were unhappy and who were struggling with their personal lives and their family environment, those were the ones who the situation made it much worse than what it actually was. So now we're at a point where some countries, for example, in Uruguay, now COVID is really bad. And when we are here in the US thinking, oh, this is almost over, we're like, not even, I don't think we need masks in New York City anymore, that sort of thing. In Uruguay, people are still staying home. And that dynamic at home has been really hard, really difficult to deal with. Especially, I mean, I think about parents who have kids who are like your kids' age, like 4, 5, 6, 7, have them home all day. I don't know how I would do if I have that. My kids are teenagers. And even though some parents find that age more difficult, I found it easier because it was almost like they understand what's going on. They know when I'm on the phone or when I'm like on an interview, whatever it is, to not come in the room. They're not like, mama.
Right.
So that's the way I see it, the way that things have, like, different families had different struggles.
Yes. And it's so true what you said about how it wasn't the pandemic that changed anything. It was just the pandemic that sort of became like a new filter for people to look at their situations through, right? Like,
exactly,
if they were already struggling with work being really, really super stressful, and then all of a sudden they're struggling to do their work while taking care of their kids and doing all the things. All of a sudden it's like, oh no, it's COVID, it's pandemic, it's being quarantined, all this. It's like, no, everything was already,
already there,
not good before. It's just that now you're just looking at it through the COVID filter. So,
but I mean, at the same time, I do think that it's such a difficult situation because a lot of people cope with the things that they're not happy with escaping their life, right?
yes.
So it could be like a trip with friends, or it could be drinks after work, whatever it is that humans use as mechanisms to cope with escaping their reality, then that was no longer an option. So people are stuck at home with kids who they don't want to deal with husbands or wives who they don't love, but they were like, oh, might as well be married 22 years, and then this like opened like, it was almost like a bright light into all the things that we didn't like.
Yes, so true. And now what would you say as far as improving relationships? So improving, that tendency to get stressed out at our kids all the time, or even our spouses or our parents or whatever it is. How would you say that we could improve those relationships now going forward, now that, at least in our country, things are, getting better, hopefully staying better, hopefully in other parts of the world as well in the near future. But what recommendations, what tips would you have for somebody?
So this is something that I think is the same advice for pretty much any difficult areas of our life we're struggling with. And it's always look at the relationship you have with yourself. Do you love who you are? Would you like dating you if you are a different person, right? Would you like you as a parent if you weren't the parent? Do you like the things that you do? Do you like how you react? So all these are basically what we were saying at the beginning, is like our universe is a reflection of us.
Yeah.
So when we try to blame others, when we judge others, when we talk about other people doing this or that, that is actually what we're saying is about ourselves. So, and this applies to children too. If you think about it, like deeply, and just like on your, like when you're by yourself, when you yell at your kids, is it because they did something so terrible, or is it because you're not having a good day?
Mm-hmm.
Because if when you were saying that you were hit as a kid, right? Because when you were very naughty, how naughty can you be when you're 6 or 7?
Right.
Right? Like, what is something awful that you could do? Like, you know? So I think that's why self-awareness is so important when we are parents, because it brings us up to a place where we observe our behavior. And to be able to do that, we have to observe our thoughts, since they are the beginning of everything.
Yeah.
So, so that's like what I think, that the first thing we need to do is look at ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, is it really my kid's fault, or is it I am having a bad day about X, Y, and Z?
Yes. And we're all allowed to have bad days. We're all human.
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to have those days, but it's just about, like you said, it's about, taking a step back to know, okay, this is not really that bad, right? There are some things that are really bad, but for the most part, in our daily lives, people who are listening to this podcast, we are probably, for the most part, I'm not going to overgeneralize, but, we have, first world problems, and, there's a lot that's available to us to help us too. Resources like Macarena. So tell us more, Macarena. Tell us about how you help people, where they can connect with you, anything that you want to share.
Okay, so the first thing that I would like to add to this process, in terms of like enhancing our relationship with our children, is one piece of advice that I heard many years ago, and I thought that is so true, where when your kids come to you with something that is important to them, something that happened at school, something that is like, do you know the book that I'm reading, or the movie I saw, or what so-and-so said, and you think, please don't tell me because I really don't care. Instead, say sure, and just listen, because even when they're really young, because that creates the precedent of them trusting that they can come to you to tell you anything. So by the time they're 14, 15, like my children, they come and tell me things that happen all the time. Do I want to hear all of them? No, I don't. But it's still something that creates that opens the channels of communication, where they feel like, okay, I can go to my mom and tell her anything because she's going to listen. That's one thing that I wanted to add. And the other thing that I wanted to add was ask them how they feel about certain things. And that can also begin with us. So we know when we have the problem with the phones and, all that, the screen time, it's more about saying, also start when they're young. How do you feel when you play outside, when you ride your bike and you play with your friends, frisbee, whatever? And then they'll be like, that was so much fun, that was so great. And how do you feel when you are like 3 hours on your phone? Your head is like drowning, right? So once children become aware of how they feel in different areas of their lives, then they can decide how they want to feel. So decide, oh, I want to feel like active and happy today. Okay. So that also creates this awareness that they are going to have from the moment they're like 4, 5, 6 until they're teenagers. So when they're teenagers, they're going to be able to say, to self-reflect and say, oh, this is how I don't want to feel upset and sad. I want to feel happy and my dopamine, secreting. So thank you so much. And then the other thing that I wanted to share was I have an Instagram account, and that is I am real 73. I am real because real coaching, real my last name, 73, the year I was born. I am real 73. And I have a Facebook group as well where I share all these different tips and tools for like daily improvement of your lives. And that's real coaching as well on Facebook.
Awesome. Yes. And I will share those links in the show notes. One quick thing that I just wanted to share, and I love, by the way, the helping them like be aware of how they feel after they do one thing or another thing or another thing. I'm already getting ideas. I love that. But one thing
I saw him working.
Yeah, he's playing by himself while mommy finishes this recording here. And one thing that we do, because sometimes after school, I would always talk to him like, hey, how was your day? What did you do today? Did you read a new book today? Did you color? What did you do for your, they have choice time where they get to choose what to do. And sometimes he doesn't tell me much. Sometimes he tells me more. But every night before I put him to bed, he, you want to come pop up? Before we're going to bed, I need a few minutes, okay?
I don't do choice time yesterday and today.
Oh, you didn't do choice time? Well, because it was the last day of school. But every night we talk about the day. And this is his request. This is something that he just made up. Like, Mommy, can we talk about the day? And usually it's a little bit to, procrastinate going to bed. But we talk about the day. We talk about, what happened in the morning, what happened after he got home from school, what activities we did. And it's just a really nice way for us to end our day. And
yes, that's a great idea. Because then they actually realize what was fun, what didn't feel good. When you treat someone, when you are not nice to people, you feel badly, right? You feel sad yourself. So once you're able to have that empathy and those emotions in control, you think, okay, do I want anyone to feel sad because I treat them badly? You don't, right? No one wants to do that.
Yeah.
Hi.
How do you feel? Say hello.
Hello.
How do you feel after you played soccer?
Good.
Really good?
Yeah.
Really good. How do you feel after watching TV for hours? Good or bored or tired or happy?
Good.
Good. All right. Well, we've got some work to do. All right. Well, Macarena, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for sharing all those golden nuggets with us. And guys, reach out to her if you're looking for some support. I feel like life coaching is not something that most people are like, oh, I need a life coach, but it's moments when you realize that you need some support, just like you might need support, to get in shape, right? To get in shape, or if you get a coach to improve your running or whatever kind of coach you get, sometimes we need somebody who is going to help us
achieve our goals.
Exactly. Achieve those goals, the personal goals, maybe the mom goals, maybe the spouse goals. And it's okay to get help. It's okay to say, hey, you know what? I could use a little help. It's actually really empowering when you take help, and you do so much more than you ever realized you could. So,
well, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's listening, to everybody who's watching the show today. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Femmes movement. I would love to hear your thoughts on the podcast, so please leave us a review. And sharing is caring. If you know someone who may benefit from this episode, please share it with them. We need more women up-leveling to their highest selves with grace, courage, and ease. If you'd like to connect with me more and have access to free live trainings and join a community of hundreds of other amazing women, then join my free Facebook group, the Fit Femmes Tribe.